Okay, so the topic that we're going to discuss for this meeting is the lesson Principles of Effective Writing. So there are various factors that you need to consider when it comes to determining the effectiveness of a particular text, such as the organization, the construction, the language use, the unity, the coherence, the cohesion, and the technicalities. So, in order for us to understand these properties, we need to follow the proper composition of a text. Okay, so the lesson objectives, at the end of the lesson, you'll be able to determine the properties of a well-written text, identify the components and structure of an effective essay, distinguish the cohesive and current features of text, recognize the language and mechanics used in text, and write an essay about write an essay that reflects properties of a well-written text. Right. So when we say composition, it can either be a paragraph or an essay. A paragraph is a group of interrelated sentences that talk about main idea, while an essay is a group of paragraphs that talk about one central idea. So when we write something, first we need to employ words when you want to express what we want to say, what we want to write in a in our composition. So we're going to write sentences, and when we combine them, they become a paragraph. And when we write numbers of paragraphs, it could become an essay. So when we say paragraph, it is a group of interrelated sentences, meaning these sentences are connected to each other. They convey singular idea about what is being talked about in the sentences. And when we say essay, group of paragraphs, the same thing. They talk about a central idea or major idea. Okay, these are the differences of paragraph and essay. Say paragraph organized around a topic sentence. Say essay organized around a thesis or thesis statement. In paragraph, it contains introductory sentence. In essay, it contains introductory paragraph. In paragraph, it uses sentences to explain major point, while an essay uses paragraphs to explain major points. It also may use a concluding sentence in paragraph. In essay, always uses a concluding paragraph. So, as you can see, one of the prominently used difference between these two types of compositions, that paragraph, sentences are composed of sentences, essay composes of paragraph. Okay, a paragraph is composed of three major parts: the topic sentence, the body, which consists of the supporting details, and the closing sentence. We say topic sentence, the central idea of the paragraph. It can be a stand or a comment, an objective statement, or a question. So, which means that um, the whole paragraph will revolve on this specific part of the paragraph. So, your topic sentence will dictate you what are the ideas that you're going to convey in a composition or the text. Supporting details, sentences that clarify and prove the main idea. So supporting details, these can be used in order to expound your topic sentence. What are the things that you want to talk about your topic sentence? That's supporting details. And also the closing sentence concludes the details that have been presented. So it's like the concluding part or the statement wherein I'm going to summarize or synthesize the whole paragraph. and the cohesive devices. Transitional devices, pronouns, or repetition of ideas used in order for all the sentences to be linked properly. So cohesive devices are used in order to connect the sentences in a paragraph. Okay, remember the most important principle that you need to follow when it comes to writing a paragraph is that the sentences should be connected. There should be oneness in the ideas. So in order to provide that, in order to suffice the principle, we need to use cohesive devices in order to link, in order to connect every sentence in a paragraph. Example, in their book, Wilbert Makichi and Marila Beniki describe four types of challenging students. So this is the topic sentence. So it talks, based on this example, it talks about the four types of challenging students. Okay, the first type is composed of attention seeking, discussion dominating, who want to be heard. The second type is comprised of inattentive students who doodle and drift off during class discussions. They often stare into their cell phones and chat with their classmates during lecture. The third type is composed of the unprepared students who are characterized as the ones who skip doing their assignments prior to the class. They do not have pens or paper, even though even they know that they are scheduled to take their quizzes and exams. The last type of challenging students includes the uncivil and disrespectful ones who display rude behavior. So as what you can see, this part is the supporting details. It expounds the the topic sentence, which is the four types of challenging students. So it provides the details or information about the topic sentence. So it also uses the cohesive device. It's like the uh, linking phrases or words that connect to the topic sentence. And the first type, the second type, the third type, the last type, yung mga cohesive devices na ginamit. And the last part, which is the concluding sentence. Knowing these types of challenging students would help teachers manage these behaviors constructively. So it's like the part of the sentence you're going to provide the synthesis of the whole paragraph. So unlike a paragraph, an essay has a more elaborate structure. It is divided into general parts, namely the introduction, body, and conclusion. So there are three main parts ng essay. May introduction, body, at saka conclusion. So here's the outline when it comes to writing an essay. So as what you can see, meron three parts: the introduction, the body, and conclusion. In introduction, it depends upon you. So here's a suggestion. Meron siyang lead or attention getter or transitional statement. Um, you can also provide the background or the context of the topic that you want to discuss in your composition or in your essay. But it's very important that you need to provide the thesis statement in your introduction because that's where the whole essay revolves. So what you're going to talk about in your body should be connected to your thesis statement, meaning the body is a manifestation of the thesis statement. Gi-elaborate lang mo siya. So the major points that you're going to provide in your thesis statement, in your body, will depend upon the number of points that you point out in your thesis statement. If, for example, if your thesis statement in your thesis statement you provided three major points, which means that there are three parts in your body. The major one, the major point one, major point two, tsaka major point three. Excuse me. So, depende siya kung ilan yung minor details na you're going to provide. And the last part, the conclusion. In conclusion, reiteration of thesis statement, meaning you need you restate your thesis statement or your stance or your position that you pointed out in your essay. You can also provide transitional statement or reiteration of purpose, benefit, and recommendation. And then the closing statement. So it's up to you. Basta you need to suffice these important uh, components or elements. Okay, an introduction. Introduction is a lead or attention getter. It's the first statement in the essay which aims to hook the readers. A composition can have an effective lead through the use of provocative rhetorical question, statistics, starting statement, anecdote, quotation, humor, or analogy. So in introduction, this is the part that you um, need to provide the context, you need to provide the background of the topic that you want to discuss, and you need to make sure that the introduction should get the attention of your reader. So, introduction is a crucial part in writing an essay or composition kasi it will determine if your essay is an interesting one. So you need to get the interest of your readers to read your paper. So dapat sa introduction pa lang, mahook na sila. Okay, this is followed by a transitional statement or the sentence which links the lead to the thesis statement. Generally, a transitional statement provides a background on the topic. In an argumentative essay, it includes the statement of the case and the arguments that will be refuted. So in transitional statement, you need to uh, provide a sentence that will link your thesis statement and to the preceding sentences in your introduction. So meaning, dapat connected sila. Your transitional statement will connect to your thesis statement and to the information or details that you provided in the first part of your introduction. Okay, the last part of the introduction is a thesis statement, which states the main idea or argument of the essay. So in your thesis statement, it is your stance or position in your essay. So meaning your whole body will revolve to your thesis statement, to the idea that you provided in this part. Then transitional paragraph. In some cases, a paragraph that does not directly provide support to a thesis statement is included in an essay. It is called a transitional paragraph. Its major function is to bridge one paragraph to another. So itong transitional paragraph is we call that. It depends upon you. So meaning it's not really you call that. It's not really um really siya necessary. It's not necessary in writing an essay. So it's up to you if you're going to utilize this specific part. So if you want to elaborate more of the topic that you want to discuss, you may use transitional paragraph. Next is body. The body is the meat of the essay. So meaning this is the main content of your paper. So it discusses the thesis statement in detail through its paragraph. So as what I have mentioned earlier, your body will elaborate your thesis statement. This is where the topic is developed and where the arguments are laid out and discussed. So it's like the discussion of your essay. So in body, you're going to provide the supporting details, the your claims, your arguments that should be provided by evidence in order to solidify your claims. The last part is the conclusion. The concluding paragraph begins with a restatement of the thesis statement using a different structure and wording to uphold the language style. This part is followed by a transitional statement that talks about the recommendations, benefits of ideas presented, or purpose of writing the essay. So in concluding paragraph, you're going to re, uh, restate your thesis statement into your structure. You maybe use different words, but the thoughts, the meanings are the same. So you can also provide recommendations. What are the things that you can do uh, with regard to the topic or with regard to the issue that we discuss? And what are your main purpose, objectives? Why you write the essay?
Sir,
Yes.
sa introduction, sir, pwede ka mag-start og question.
Rhetorical question. It's fine.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Actually, that's one of the prominently used techniques or style when it comes to writing an essay. Authors begin with ito, rhetorical question. The rhetorical question is not necessary that your readers need to answer the question. It's like rhetorical question kasi purpose niya is you want to make a point. Saan to?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Let's try to look at this sample essay. Klaro ang word. Klaro ang essay. Okay, na. Okay. This is an example of literary criticism that I wrote when I was in third year college sa literary criticism namin na subject. So, um, it's the story that I critic was the story of Madame Bovary. So I use psychoanalysis. This is the theory that I injected sa story. So for example, this paragraph, this is my introductory paragraph. So I provided the context or the some of the details of the story. So Madame Bovary is a classic tragic story that features infidelity, societal issues, and ambitions. We can depict various themes and interpretations of the story regarding its historical context and the author himself, Steph Flaubert. But one obvious depiction of the story is the portrayal of behavioral and psychological patterns among the characters and the setting itself. Using the psychoanalysis of Freud, we can see that Emma Bovary represented the id, the life system of the convent where Emma grew up represented the superego, and Charles Bovary represented the ego. So, ito kasing sa psychoanalysis na theory, you need to identify which part yung id, ego, superego. I think, I don't know if you will encounter this in your personal development sa grade 12. I'm not sure, but it's a psychological theory ni siya. So, my thesis statement dito sa paragraph, sa essay, ito. Using the psychoanalysis of Freud, you can see that Emma Bovary represented the id, the life system of the convent where Emma grew up represented superego, the Charles Bovary represented the ego. So as you can see in this thesis statement, I pointed out three major points. Itong id, which is represented by Emma, itong superego, the life system of the convent where Emma grew up, at saka itong ego, which is the Charles Bovary. So, in my body, expounded my major points dito. So, first is the id, the represented by Emma Bovary. So, ito siya. So, I expounded, I provided details about this major point. Next paragraph is yung superego represented by the convent where Emma grew up. So, ito siya. The same thing. I provided details, claims, arguments about um, this major point. Then the next one is the ego, the story. So since I have three major points dito sa thesis statement ko, so meron din akong tatlong paragraph. Basic number of paragraph sa aking body. So the last one, this is my conclusion. I restated my thesis statement and provided a major thoughts of my body based ako ang essay. So this is the basic principles that you need to follow when it comes to writing an essay. Next is properties of a well-written text. Knowing the parts of a paragraph in the essay will help you form the framework of your composition. And knowledge of the aspects that make a well-written text will enable you to ensure the quality of your work. More importantly, the message you want to communicate will effectively come through. So the most important things that you need to consider when it comes to being conscious of using the properties of well-written text that um, when you construct your essay or composition, any composition properly, you will be able to convey what you want your readers to understand in your text. So you also need to know what are the technicalities comes to writing. It's because um, in a particular context, there are standard writing procedure that we need to follow in order for us to be effective. The first is the unity. Unity is achieved when a composition contains one focus idea. In a unified text, all the supporting ideas are relevant to the main thought. Without unity, the text will be confusing. So when it comes to unity, there should be oneness of the ideas, the thoughts that you presented in your composition or essay. So let's go back to my example, yung sa essay na sinulat ko. So based on that essay, I only talk about the psychoanalysis. That's the only theory that I use for my literary criticism sa story na Madame Bovary. So since I just use psychoanalysis, meaning my arguments, my claims should revolve the psychological aspects doon sa theory. Kasi there are a lot of theories that you can inject sa isang story when you criticize it. You can use feminism, merong historical background, merong Marxism, merong queer theory. So maraming theory na pwede mo magamit. But since I focus on psychoanalysis, meaning yung claims ko, yung arguments ko, should be the psychological aspects dun sa story. So there should be unity in the ideas that I presented dun sa essay. Next is coherence and cohesion. Coherence and cohesion are achieved when ideas are logically, clearly, and smoothly linked to one another. Without it, the reader may not be able to comprehend your composition. Although these two concepts are interrelated, they are distinct. So itong coherence and cohesion, very important principles that you need to follow. Kasi ito yung nagko-connect doon sa sentences and paragraphs ninyo. So when say coherence occurs when ideas are connected at the conceptual or idea level. It can be seen through well-defended arguments and organized points. So which means that say coherence, um, the ideas that you presented in the text are connected. Meaning, if you wait, example, in this part, since this part, I talk about the first point in my thesis statement, which is the it, which is represented by Emma Bovary. So, meaning the ideas that I need to discuss in this specific part of the paragraph should be related to the it represented by Emma Bovary. Kasi ito yung idea na present ko. So there should be coherence sa lahat ng ideas that I presented in this part. Dito, since I talk about the superego, the ideas, the claims, the arguments that I pointed out in this part should be related to the major point superego. Ito naman, since I talk about the ego, the major points, the supporting details, the arguments, the claims should be related to the major point ego. So, ano siya? Connected siya in idea level. And when we say cohesion, it's a connection of ideas at the sentence level, meaning the sentences in your paragraph should be related. So, in cohesion, you need to use cohesive devices, meaning dapat na ay a proper transition sa sentence. In sentence level, cohesion, you should use or utilize words that are connected in each sentence, meaning dapat ang next na sentence should be related to the sentence that it preceded. Next is organization. Is achieved when ideas are logically and accurately arranged. Knowledge of the parts or composition is a great help in adhering to the correct organization of ideas. Sentences within a paragraph must also be organized logically. So organization, it refers to the structure of the of the essay. So since the organization of an essay, there should be introduction, body, should be conclusion, and there should be specific parts in introduction, sa body, at sa conclusion. So you need to suffice all the structures in writing an essay. In language use, the way language is used is one of the clearest indicators of a well-written text. It enables the writer to effectively communicate ideas without confusing the reader. So it's very important that you need to identify your target readers. So if meron kang target readers, then you need to understand what's their language. Kung ano yung the language that they able to understand, so that the message that you want to convey will be understood by your target readers. It's important that the language that you're going to use is appropriate to your audience or readers. Okay. So the technicalities in writing an essay: use clear and concise sentences, meaning as much as possible, you need to be short with your sentences. Kasi tendency, intricate ang inyong text, meaning hard to understand, complex siya. So as much as possible, you need to be concise, meaning short but complete. Avoid redundancies, wordiness, cliches, and highfalutin language. Say, avoid redundancies, meaning balik-balik na words that are not necessary. Okay, wordiness kanang tawag kanang verbose kaayo. Kasi it will make your paper dull and annoying ang inyong paper. So as much as possible, avoid being wordy or being verbose. Cliches, magbalik-balik. Highfalutin language, meaning high-sounding words. These words that are hard to understand, ning mga kanang mga unfamiliar words. So it's really fine if we're going to use highfalutin words. but you need to make sure that these words are can be intelligibly understood by your readers. So you need to identify who are your target readers para makabalo ka kung sa mga words na imong gamiton. Next is avoid excessive use of there and it structures. Itong there and it structures, pronouns ito siya at saka deictic expressions or mga pointing words. Tendency kasi, you will create confusion. Kung saan gina-refer nimo sa there o it na words. So as much as possible, you need to avoid using that. You have to use these words if necessary lang siya. If not necessary, then you have to avoid. Kasi mga pointing words manggod ni siya. Meaning, unsa ang imong gina-refer. Ani na pointing words. If you did not clearly establish that in your essay, then your readers will find it hard to identify your message, what you want to convey to them. Next is use precise vocabulary. Be accurate and condense lengthy phrases into fewer words. So meaning you need to use appropriate words because sometimes there are compositions that kan pataka gamit og words pa. So it's very important that you need to provide appropriate words kasi say if we want to when we write, in order for us to sound intellectual, we use synonyms. We search for words. Don't get me wrong, it's totally fine if we're going to use synonyms. Mangita ka sa dictionary kung saang other terms sa word na imong gusto i-convey. But the thing is, there are specific contexts kasi na appropriate siya na gamitin. So you need to understand that not all synonyms can be used in order to substitute the words that you want to use in your essay. So it's really fine if we're going to use mga simple words as long as masabtan ang inyong essay. Be consistent with your pronouns point of view. Meaning, for example, if you use we in your sentence, in your essay, dapat consistent ka. You use the word we or you include yourself and other people throughout your essay. So consistent dapat imong POV. Avoid sexist language, meaning you need to avoid gender biased language. Yung mga language that depict discrimination, gender discrimination. So you need to avoid sexist language. Use the appropriate level of formality. So for example, if mga technical papers like compositions in the academe, you need to be formal when it comes to writing. Okay, mechanics. The technical aspect of writing, also known as mechanics, should not be overlooked when writing. It is one of the properties of a well-written text and is characterized as a set of conventions and how to spell, abbreviate, punctuate, and capitalize a composition. Itong mechanics, this is the technical aspects in writing paper. Okay, always use standard English. To be honest, when we say standard English, we cannot point out which one is the standard English kung British English ba, American English ba, Canadian English ba, Australian English ba, naman gani Philippine English and Singaporean English, so we cannot really point out. But in international standard English, usually it refers to Western English, like in sa American English. Kasi mas prominent kasi yung American English. Kaya gina-refer siya sa standard English. But the thing is, there's no really standard na English. Kasi maraming variety or maraming dialect in English. Then avoid contractions. Avoid contractions meaning mga shortened words. For example, shouldn't or wouldn't. Yung mga nag-omit ka og letter, then you use apostrophes in siyang contractions. I forgot sa standard English, if you're going to use British English in your essay, you need to be consistent. From start to finish, British English na yung gamiton. But if you use English, American English, from start to finish, dapat American English. Kasi mag-vary manggod siya. Remember, excuse me, our discussion sa oral communication in context, katong um, different dialects of English, na British English, 'di ba? Na American English, na siya lain-lain nga terms na ginagamit. So dapat consistent ka. Then avoid exclamation marks unless they are part of a direct quotation. So if you're going to write a formal writing composition, usually dili ginagamit ang exclamation mark. Kasi exclamation marks, it depicts the emotion of the author or of the one um, na, tawag na eh, or in a story, the one who kanang, tawag na eh, the one who speak of that specific line with exclamation marks, mga exclamation point. But in sa mga literary pieces, when you write mga poetry or mga fictional stories, it's fine if you're going to use exclamation marks. But in technical papers such as mga essay, research paper, position paper, argumentative essay, avoid using exclamation marks. Then mention the full name of an institution or organization with the abbreviation in parentheses first mentioned. Thereafter, use the abbreviation. Okay, for example, if you want to mention the CCSA, in the first time you mention CCSA, it should be in full name, meaning the Christian Colleges of Southeast Asia, then meron siya, naka-enclose siya ng parentheses na CCSA. Ganun siya. Then after that, the succeeding parts of the essay wherein you use the name of CCSA, pwede na siya yung initial na CCSA. Okay na siya. But in the first, for the first time, you use the full name of an institution, full name talaga siya. Tapos naka-enclose na initial. The numbers from 0 to 10 should be spelled out, while numbers higher than 10 should be written in figures. Meaning, from 0 to 10, it should be written, it should be spelled out. But higher than that, pwede siya itong figures niya. Generally, citations are used in academic and formal texts. However, they're sparingly used in business texts. So, meaning, you need to use citations. If you quote a statement, then you need to cite the author of that statement. Remember our discussion sa research. Then that's the end of our discussion. Okay, do you have questions? Clarifications about our discussion? By the way, wala ko nag-post na og module for the third quarter kasi I do not require you to answer weekly assessment anymore kasi okay na yung first week, 'di ba? So some of you nakasubmit na, and then I want you to focus on writing your research. So dili na ako mag-provide og module for the third week, but I will post my PowerPoint presentation sa remaining lessons for the anyway, 3 lessons na lang man ang nabilin for the reading and writing. So by this week, mahuman na ta sa reading and writing. So para makafocus na mo sa inyong performance task next week sa reading and writing, which is katong reflective essay sa Tuesdays with Mori. And by the way, sa inyong research, Kaya lang nga ako sang i-check balik. Nakasubmit pa lang upat ka buok. Sa inyo ha, Reniel, okay man ang inyong inyong paper.
Okay, sir.
Okay inyong inyong paper. Pero mag-check man ako ni further ang pa ko scan pa lang nako.
Sige, sir.
Na-receive din mo ako, sir.
Darrell, wait lang. Asa ni mo gi-send, Darrell? Kinsa nag-send?
Ako, sir. Sa Gmail ni mo, sir.
Wala ako na-receive.
Kagabi, sir. Wala, sir.
Wala. I-send da usab.
Sige, sir.
Ang naalan diri kay, wait lang ha. Uy, patarata sa ABM.
Ay, excuse me, sir. Gipasa na ni sir.
Ha? Unsa?
Gipasa na ni patarata, sir.
Oo, patarata nag-submit na siya. Ila Reniel o La Fria, mao lang niya nag-submit sa ako Sa inyo ha, Junmar, okay man ang inyo ha, pero you need to add dun sa review of related literature kay kulang ang inyong gi-provide. Kulangan ang indicators. Di ba, butan ako sa inyo ang outline, ang katong indicators sa digital marketing objectives. Ang nakasulat lang diri is brand development. Mao lang. Ay, naade. Pero gamay lang. Sige lang, ako maning ibalik sa inyo ha. Tangan akong comments.
Sige, sir. Thank you.
Actually, okay yung paper. Kailangan lang og improvement. Okay, sa Friday na ako sa inyo mag-consolidate sa inyong paper after sa discussion nato sa research. I-check pa na ako ni. By this week, i-submit ninyo ang methods ninyo sa ako Anyway, gamay na lang, mubo lang man tong methods. Kaya pa may concerns or questions?
Ano sa magsugod og kuan sir katong part 2 ba to, sir? Tong rag methods.
Karon na week, magbuhat mo. Submit niyo karon na week. Anyway, gamay nila man to. Mubo lang ang ang methods.
Sige, sir.
Then pod ko, di ba? Appeal to siya sa outline na akong i-provide. Introduction man to og methods. Kaya ang results and discussion ninyo sa conclusion sa fourth quarter ni. Kaya para at least taas mo og time maka-revise, mahuman at kay mag outline defense pa mo. Ako saning i-schedule sa kamo. And probably si Ma'am Princess o si Sir Mark ang mag panel members o ako. Ano man to yung emoji Junmar.
Wala lang.
Problema dili mi mga og tao. Dili mo kaon og estudyante.
Kulbaan ng sleep.
Di mo dapat makulbaan because ang purpose sa outline defense is that to help you improve your paper. Dili kay pangkaunon ang ang estudyante. Dili may mga terror sa outline defense, but we will give constructive criticisms. Ano lang. Okay, next week ha, karon na week, submit man ninyo ang inyong method. So pakumpleto ninyo ang inyong PT sa PR1 sa third quarter. Pero ibalik pa na ko na sa inyo ha for improvement. But para next week mag-submit mo sa inyong reflective essay sa inyong sa PT ninyo sa reading and writing tong story na nagbasa na mo ato. Nice to siya nga story, ma-enjoy mo ato.
Oh, wala po kabasa, sir.
Wala pa, sir.
Sandali naman to, di man kayo to taas jud na novel. More siya pocket book ana lang. Dahil ato yung mga manugbasa. Nice to siya nga
Murag
story.
reflection lang, sir. Ano, sir?
Ha? Sa?
Murag reflection, sir. Ano?
Reflection lang. Reflection paper. So you are free to write anything you want to express sa inyong essay. Sa reflection paper lang siya. Okay na? Okay na ta?
Yes,
Ay,
sir.
Okay na, sir.
Okay, bye guys. Thank you for joining. Ako sa mga classmates ninyo no, kaya wala na gana. Wala sila.
Module sila, sir. Module.
Online man halos mo tanan. Gamay ra man wa makabot og 5 ang module. Anyway,
Lagi,
blended
sir.
man. Anyway,
Nawad
blended.
na sila gana, sir.
Wadan mo gana, wadan po ko gana bahala.
Patay.
Dili bitaw, eh.
grado.
Dili bitaw. Pero sige lang. Ako okay naman sa akong dili mag-join og kanang sa basta mo ingon lang wa po naga-message sa ako ngano di sila maka-join. So I wonder why ngano wa sila naga-join. And then kung dili maka-join basta maka-submit og mga requirements niya. Wala na gani ko nagapa-answer sa imong module kay para maka-focus mo sa imong PT. Nya, dagan pag dili magmutabang sa grupo. Lagot. Nya maglisod ba mi consolidate kay
Oo, sir. Wala.
online. Na lang. Sige, maora to guys. Bye. I-end na ako.
Bye, sir.
Salamat sa pag-join.
Bye, sir. Thank you.